The year was 1518. The Place Strasbourg, a bustling city in what is now France. Life was hard, but people found joy in simple pleasures. Then in July, something strange occurred. A woman named Frau Troffea stepped into the street and began to dance. Her movements were wild and uncontrolled. She danced with an odd intensity, her face contorted in a grimace. People stopped to watch, amused at first, but as the hours turned into days, their amusement turned to concern. Frau Troffea didn't stop dancing. She danced through the night, her feet bleeding, her body racked with exhaustion. Still, she danced on, seemingly unable to control her own body. This was no ordinary dance. This was something far more unsettling. This was the beginning of the dancing plague. Frau Troffea's bizarre behavior proved contagious. It all began on a hot summer day in July 1518 when she stepped out into the streets of Strasbourg and started dancing with an intensity that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Her movements were erratic, her expression vacant, as if she were in a trance. Within days, others in Strasbourg joined her in the streets. Men, women, and even children were drawn into the strange dance, unable to resist the compulsion to move their bodies in the same frenzied manner. They danced with the same frantic energy, their bodies twisting and contorting in unnatural ways. The scene was surreal, with people moving as if possessed, their limbs flailing and their faces contorted in expressions of both ecstasy and agony. The dance spread like wildfire, consuming the city. What started with one woman quickly escalated into a full-blown epidemic, with hundreds of people dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Soon, dozens of people were caught in the grip of the strange affliction. The city was in chaos, with people collapsing from exhaustion, only to get up and continue dancing. They danced in the streets, in the marketplace, even in the church. No place was spared from the madness as the dancers moved from one location to another, spreading the bizarre phenomenon. Their faces were pale, their eyes vacant, their bodies moving to a rhythm only they could hear. It was as if they were under a spell, driven by an unseen force that compelled them to dance without rest. The once vibrant city was transformed into a stage for a macabre spectacle. The streets, usually bustling with the sounds of daily life, were now filled with the eerie sight of people dancing themselves to the brink of collapse. The air, once filled with the sounds of laughter and commerce, now echoed with the heavy thudding of feet and the cries of the exhausted dancers. The city was gripped by a sense of dread, as no one knew how or when the madness would end. Fear and confusion gripped the city as the dancing plague tightened its hold. The townspeople watched in horror, unsure of what to do or how to help those afflicted. The once lively and joyous city of Strasbourg had become a place of fear and despair as the dance of death continued unabated. The dancers found no respite from their torment. They danced for days on end, their bodies pushed to the limits of endurance. Sleep offered no escape as many continued to twitch and jerk even in slumber. Food and water were ignored, their bodies consumed by the relentless rhythm. As days turned into weeks, the physical toll on the dancers became horrifyingly clear. Their clothing was reduced to rags, their bodies emaciated and bruised. Their feet, raw and bleeding, left bloody trails on the cobblestones. Their minds, too, suffered under the strain. Many became delirious, their ravings echoing through the empty streets. The line between reality and delusion blurred, replaced by a world of endless, agonizing movement. The dancing plague was a torment for both body and mind. Section 4. Theories in a time of fear. Panic seized Strasbourg. The year was 1518 and the city was gripped by an inexplicable and terrifying phenomenon. People were dancing uncontrollably in the streets, unable to stop, their faces contorted in pain and exhaustion. The townsfolk were bewildered and terrified, unsure of what was happening or how to stop it. The authorities, desperate for answers, turned to the prevailing beliefs of the time. They convened meetings, consulted ancient texts, and sought the wisdom of scholars and physicians. Theories began to emerge, each more perplexing than the last. Some blamed the plague on hot blood, suggesting that excessive dancing would purge the body of the dangerous heat. This theory was rooted in the ancient medical practice of balancing the body's humors. Physicians recommended that the afflicted continue dancing to expel the excess heat, hoping it would bring relief. Others saw it as a curse, a divine punishment for the sins of the city. The clergy believed that the people had angered God, and this was his retribution. They organized prayers, processions, and rituals to seek divine intervention. Physicians were baffled, unable to find a logical explanation for the strange affliction. They examined the dancers, searching for a physical cause for the strange affliction. Was it poisoned bread, an unknown disease? They considered every possibility, from ergot poisoning caused by a fungus that grows on rye to a mysterious new illness that had never been seen before. A strange alignment of the stars. Astrologers were consulted, and they examined the heavens for any signs that might explain the madness. They believed that celestial events could influence human behavior, and they searched for any unusual patterns or alignments that might have triggered the dancing plague. Theories abounded, but none could fully explain the bizarre phenomenon. Scholars debated endlessly, each presenting their own ideas and evidence. The more they discussed, the more confused they became. The mystery deepened and the fear among the townspeople grew. Amidst the fear and speculation, one theory gained traction. The dancers were possessed by St. Vitus, the patron saint of dancers. This theory suggested that the saint, angered by some unknown transgression, had inflicted this madness upon the people as a form of divine punishment. It was believed that St. Vitus, angered by some unknown transgression, had inflicted this madness upon the people. The townsfolk, desperate for relief, turned to the church for help. They prayed to St. Vitus, hoping to appease him and end the plague. The fear and uncertainty continued to grip Strasbourg, as the mystery of the dancing plague remained unsolved. Section 5. Seeking a cure for the unseen. Desperate to appease the perceived wrath of St. Vitus, the authorities took drastic measures. The town was gripped by fear and confusion, as no one could understand the cause of the mysterious affliction that had taken hold of their community. The sight of loved ones and neighbors dancing uncontrollably day and night filled everyone with dread. They erected a wooden stage in the marketplace and hired musicians to play, hoping to cure the afflicted through even more dancing. The idea was that by encouraging the dancers to continue, they might eventually dance themselves free of the curse. Musicians played tirelessly, their melodies echoing through the streets as the afflicted danced on, driven by an unseen force. They believed that by indulging the dance, they could somehow exorcise the unseen force that held the city captive. The townspeople watched in a mix of hope and horror, praying that this bizarre remedy would bring an end to the madness. The dancers, however, showed no signs of stopping, their movements growing more frantic and desperate with each passing hour. However, the relentless music and forced movement only worsened the dancers' plight. The constant motion took a severe toll on their bodies, leading to injuries and extreme fatigue. The dancers' faces twisted in pain, yet they could not stop, their limbs moving as if controlled by an external force. Their bodies, already pushed beyond their limits, continued to contort and sway until they collapsed from exhaustion. The sight of dancers falling to the ground, unable to rise, became a common and heartbreaking scene. The townspeople's initial hope turned to despair as they realized that the music and dancing were not the cure they had hoped for. The stench of sweat and fear permeated the air, a grim reminder of the futility of their efforts. The marketplace, once a place of commerce and community, had become a scene of suffering and hopelessness. The air was thick with the smell of sweat, mingled with the palpable fear of the onlookers who could do nothing but watch. Some resorted to more traditional remedies. In their desperation, people turned to the healers and physicians of the time, hoping that ancient practices might succeed where modern attempts had failed. The healers, though limited in their understanding, did their best to provide relief. Bloodletting, a common practice at the time, was employed in a desperate attempt to purge the supposed evil from their bodies. Physicians believed that by removing blood they could balance the humors and restore health. The procedure was painful and often dangerous, but many were willing to endure it in the hope of finding a cure. Herbal concoctions were administered, their bitter taste offering false hope to the desperate and dying. Healers prepared mixtures of various herbs, each believed to have properties that could combat the affliction. The bitter brews were consumed with the hope that they would bring relief, but more often than not, they provided little more than a temporary distraction from the suffering. As the days turned into weeks, the town's desperation grew. People gathered in the town square at dusk, lighting candles and praying for divine intervention. The flickering lights and whispered prayers added a somber atmosphere to the already grim situation. The community's faith was tested as they sought a miracle to end the torment. The story of the dancing plague remains a haunting reminder of the lengths to which people will go in their search for a cure. It is a testament to the human spirit's resilience and the enduring hope that, even in the face of the unknown, a solution can be found. The pages of history turn, but the lessons of the past continue to resonate, urging us to seek understanding and compassion in times of crisis.